They're passing the basket through the crowd, and I think everybody standing here should put $1 in that basket. Don't you think you should? Sure, these are freedom dollars, brother. We're not asking you to give us some money to make us rich. We put up businesses. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad has set up more businesses than any black man in America. He's not trying to build churches, he's trying to build businesses. Because businesses make jobs for you, and churches don't make jobs for anybody but preachers. Throughout America, only on a modern scale, you have a house Negro and a field Negro. That Negro big shot, the upper class Negro, the middle class Negro, in every city, that black bourgeoisie. They aren't oppressed like you and I are. Before the Emancipation Proclamation, they lived in the white man's house. Go to the Waldorf Astoria. Go downtown to where the white people are, and you'll find the house Negro. Go to these integrated parties, you'll find the house Negro. Go to the integrated schools and colleges, you'll find the house Negro. Go where the Uncle Toms are, and you'll find the house Negro. Go where the Negro leaders are, and you'll find the house Negro. For them to get a fair trial, there would be no necessity for a trial at all. These are the victims of police bullets, and you don't take the victim in court as a criminal. You take the one who shot the victim in court, and it is the police who should be on trial here in Los Angeles.
Well, if you think you can't get a fair trial here, why don't you ask for a change of venue?
I don't know why the lawyers haven't sought any change of venue, but I would say that actually what is on trial is the Los Angeles court system. Los Angeles is on trial. We don't feel that we are.
The country is watching this trial very closely?
Well, the press, again, has put forth a great deal of effort to contain the press coverage. Outside of Los Angeles, most people in this country don't know the trial is taking place.
Malcolm X, what do you think of Cassius's victory in Miami?
I think it was a great victory. He proved he was the best man.
And where were you during the fight?
I was in the auditorium watching the fight.
Right at ringside?
Right at ringside. I was in seat 7.
And do you think that Cassius's being a black Muslim has had anything to do with this victory?
Well, I haven't heard him say he was a black Muslim. I have heard him say that he believes in the religion of Islam, which makes him a Muslim. And it did have a great deal to do with his victory because he's a clean, living young man. And this is the main thing that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad does teach in spreading the religion of Islam throughout among our people in this country.
Mr. X, how long has Cassius been a black Muslim? Do you know that?
Well, I don't know. Cassius is probably more capable of speaking for himself than any other man in this country.
Truth will free you from anything, and Negroes don't know the truth. You find a Negro getting drunk, he doesn't know the truth. You find a Negro taking dope, he doesn't know the truth. You find a Negro lying and cheating, he doesn't know the truth. He's usually imitating the white man. Negroes get drunk because they see white people get drunk. They smoke cigarettes because they see white people smoke cigarettes. They commit fornication and adultery because when they turn on the television, all they see is the white man committing fornication and adultery. And they want to be like the white man, so they copy his immoral social habits. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad comes along and teaches black people the glory of black. And instead of the black man then trying to imitate the white man, he tries to imitate God. He tries to be himself. and he tries to display high moral qualities rather than the low.
Mr. Farmer, what's your opinion of the statement by Malcolm X that he is leaving the black Muslims?
Well, I think that Malcolm has left a number of unanswered questions which need to be answered. First of all, what are his plans? Does he intend to build an organization? If so, what kind of organization? Pro-integration or pro-separation? And in either case, what is the program going to be? He speaks of self-defense, but self-defense is not a program. It's merely a response to violence. And what does he mean by self-defense? Is it self-defense on campaigns, on projects, on demonstrations if attacked? Or is it self-defense in the event somebody attacks one's home or attacks you individually when you were walking down the street, not involved in a project? I think we require answers to those questions.
In his announcement, Malcolm spoke of the failure of the Negro Revolution. Do you agree with that?
Oh, of course not. I think the successes of the revolution speak for themselves. Within the past 3 years, the amount of progress that has been made in wiping out segregation and racial discrimination is enormous. Now, he says that it's been a failure. Maybe he means that it's been a failure in terms of separationism. It certainly has not been a failure in terms of integrationism.
Malcolm X, why are you leaving the Nation of Islam, usually referred to as the Black Muslim movement?
I'm glad you said usually referred to as the black. Police brutality and other ills that afflict the Negro community. But we won't be joining them, nor will they be joining us, but we will work together on any objective that we have in common, or that will be for the common good of the Negro community.
I believe that Mr. Muhammad and the Muslims have not done that in the past. Is that so?
Well, only because many of the so-called civil rights groups have been afraid. And in some cases, we ourselves haven't been as flexible as we could be. But things are shaping up now where if something isn't done to get some kind of unity among the groups, no matter what differences they have, things can get mighty bad.
You have spoken of Negro discontent with the progress of civil rights. What do you think about that?
Yes, the black people in this country are completely dissatisfied, disillusioned, and disenchanted with the entire civil rights movement.
You suggest that Negroes vote for in the coming election?
I wouldn't suggest that they vote for any party or either party. I would suggest that the so-called Negroes become politically mature, realize the power that they hold in the field of politics, and then once the person who is running is aware that this man is awakened to the power that he holds, then that person who is running will approach that Negro on a more intelligent plane. As it is right now, most of the Negro leaders sell out to the white politicians for crumbs. And an awakening, a political awakening among Negroes will make it impossible for the present Negro leaders to sell our people out as they've been doing in the past.
Well, you do think Negroes should vote?
Negroes should do whatever is necessary to bring about a complete solution to their problem. When I say whatever is necessary, they should have the flexibility to do whatever is necessary to solve the problem.
Well, what is your answer to it now? Is it still separatism, a separate nation of your own in this country or in Africa?
Mr. Muhammad has said that if the problems can't be solved here, and by us being incorporated right into the mainstream of things, our people should be allowed to go back home to Africa. And if the government doesn't want us to go back home to Africa, he then says that some separate territory should be set aside in this country.
Do you think that there would be room in Africa for American Negroes? What will be the difference between your new movement and the Nation of Islam?
Well, the basic difference will be it'll probably be more flexible, and it's not my intention to teach among Muslims or those who are already Muslims, but to take Mr. Muhammad's message out among the non-Muslim so-called Negroes.
Well, you will work then with Negro groups that are working for integration?
Not work with them, but any of the Negro integrationist groups who have an objective in common with us. We can cooperate with them in that particular objective.
Do you believe that Negroes should continue in the nonviolent methods that they have been using?
Muhammad's analysis is that until the image of the black man in the mind of the black man has been changed, you will always have delinquency, parental as well as juvenile. So his entire approach is not so much to change the attitude of the white man toward the black man, but to change the attitude of the black man about himself.
And change it in what direction?
Change it
what
in...
should the attitude be?
Well, a feeling or a sense of inferiority has been created by the white power structure, educational and otherwise, in the mind of the black man about himself. And Mr. Muhammad's entire approach is to restore to the black man a knowledge of himself, a knowledge of his people, his cultural roots. And by doing this, this restores his racial identity, his racial dignity, his confidence as a race, racial confidence in his own kind. And when he gets this self-confidence, he's then able to stop blaming and begging the white man, and is then able to stand on his own feet. A Catholic president who himself was discriminated against for a long time and accused Protestants of practicing religious discrimination. I think that he is way out of line to use his position now as the first Catholic president to open up his mouth against a religious group here in this country that is headed by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. If he's not going to open up his mouth and outright condemn the Citizens Council by name, and condemn the Ku Klux Klan by name, and condemn the white Masonic order, which is all white, by name, and the white churches in the South by name, then Kennedy is wrong to point at the Muslims because we are black and because we don't want to mix with the people down there. And I should say that when we express our desire not to mix with whites, they call us a hate group. And Martin Luther King is running around here telling Negroes to love all kind of white people, and they sick dogs on Martin Luther King. So it answers itself, and it shows the hypocrisy of the white man.
What brought you to Harlem tonight?
I came to the rally held by Brother Malcom tonight. I was invited. I was very happy to come. I've been very pleased with the new approach that's being used here, and I certainly endorse it. I think it will add a new life to the civil rights movement as a whole. I think Brother Malcom has offered his support in any way to any of our goals, and I think that the two areas can be mutually beneficial.
Do you subscribe at all to separatism yourself?
I don't think, as right now, I don't subscribe to separatism myself, but I think under the new political organization that he intends to set up that there was no hint of this at the time. I certainly believe that a black organization should be set up under black leadership. It should be open to everyone, but I think the leadership is going to have to remain in the hands of the Negroes. We're going to have to learn how to do these things ourselves and make our own mistakes without advice from anyone white at all.
Your trip today was in the interests of building a political party?
Yes, I think the seeds of it will start here.
On politics, what do you think of the votes Governor Wallace got in Wisconsin?
I'm not surprised. I think a lot of people possibly were surprised in Wisconsin, but I was quite sure that Governor Wallace, in being allowed to go across the United States, would solidify the borderline vote and the segregationist vote much more than, let's say, Washington would like to admit.
What do you think it meant, the votes that he got?
I think that possibly this is indicative all across the country of a segment of votes that are like this. If this were not true, it would not, Congress would not have to pass a civil rights bill, would not have to even put it into effect. They could implement the Constitution.
Do you think Negroes could form a political party which could counteract a hardcore?
I think so, because I think the way the economic and political structure of America is set up, that if we solidify a Negro vote across the country, and that we can negotiate with this vote in connection with other block votes, farm votes, labor votes, where our interests are in conjunction with other areas. I certainly think this is going to have to be done.
Thank you very much. A second trip to Africa?
Well, Senator Paul Douglas of Illinois told me that the Africans weren't interested in the American so-called Negroes, so I'm going to make a three-week trip into Africa to find out how our people over there feel about us. Actually, I already know how they feel about us.
How do they feel?
Well, they realize that we're their brothers, and I think that they realize that we realize that we're their brothers.
Will you actively seek support in some way from them? Expressions of support?
Well, I think that the Africans have already expressed support of the black people in this country, and the more they know about our problem, the more they are inclined toward supporting us.
Do you think this could have any adverse effect on American diplomacy in Africa?
I don't see why it should. I certainly wouldn't say anything in Africa that's not true. If telling the truth will affect American diplomacy, then America has some very bad situations existing here.
When will you go?
Well, at this time, I'd rather not say, but I intend to be over there within the next couple of weeks.
You also mentioned tonight the demonstration Corps plans in Brooklyn, planned by Brooklyn Corps, to tie up the traffic around the World's Fair. Do you feel that's a good demonstration?
Well, I just finished making my statement that I'm not against anything that anybody does.
Are you actively asking them to go out in their cars and try to block traffic?
I repeat that I'm not against anything that anybody does to bring the spotlight of the world upon the human rights violations of 22 million African Americans in this country. And I can think of nothing that would spotlight it better than if it became impossible for...
I think the World's Fair demonstration might prove.
Well, I can think that nothing would bring the spotlight of the world or the attention of the world upon the human rights violations of the 22 million African Americans more so than tying up traffic that will make it impossible for the fair to open up.
Something that will get worldwide publicity.
It'll bring worldwide attention to the fact that America is guilty of violating the human rights of 22 million African Americans.
On another subject, what do you think the meaning is of the 250,000 votes that Governor Wallace got in Wisconsin?
The 250,000 votes that Governor Wallace got in Wisconsin shows that white people in Wisconsin are no different from white people in Alabama.
All white people, or 250,000 of them?
Well, there were 250,000 who were not afraid to go on record. And there were many more, there were probably millions of them who thought the same way that Wallace thinks, but who didn't feel that they should bring their thinking out at this time.
Would that make you think that a Negro political party can't win? It's hopeless?
I don't know what you mean by a Negro political party.
Are you not forming one?
We are. Our social and economic and political philosophy is black nationalism. We spread the philosophy of black nationalism, and once it wakes black people up, they'll know what to form in order to bring about some justice in this country for themselves.
You think you might be able to?
Minister James, what about this charge by Mr. Amir that Malcolm X has been marked for death by his former associates?
These charges are false. The Muslims have excommunicated Malcolm X, and we're done with him, unless he wants to come back into line with the teachings and the moral principles of Islam and a follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Then he is not marked for death?
No, he's not. That's hearsay, and we believe that Malcolm is using that because that's his best way of keeping himself before the public and making himself newsworthy.
Then what is your policy toward him? No violence, nothing like that?
No, there is no violence against him. It is Malcolm's statement, according to the New York Times, that he intends to bring about the character assassination of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and try to blackguard the Muslim movement as a whole. But he's the first man that we've had to try to go against the man that have benefited him and have brought him into the light of the world.
What is your opinion of him? Do you feel that he has hurt the black Muslim movement?
I do not. Since Malcolm has been out of the movement, we have a better spiritual working relationship among the Muslims in general, and the accusations that he's bringing against the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, we are gaining more converts out of it than we have ever have at any time.
What about the defection that was publicized today of Elijah Muhammad's son, Abkar? Why did he leave the movement?
I believe you mean Akbar.
Right. I'll ask the question again. It sounds stupid. Akbar, I'm sorry. What about the defection of Malcolm X? No, start it again. What of the? It was reported today that Akbar, the son of Elijah Muhammad, had defected because he disagreed with his father's philosophy, he said, and he thought the ideas were concocted. How about that?
I believe that Akbar is a victim of circumstances because he's about 25 years old. He was born in Islam. He was raised and protected by his father, who have sent him to greater heights in the educational world than he himself had gone. I believe that he should study more carefully the work of his father, because his father is an historian, a reformer. He is also a statesman, and by the same token, a religious leader as well.
There's a general feeling among the white population in this country that the black Muslims are dedicated to violence, that they're a movement aimed at hurting whites. Is this true?
Well, I would say you could look at the history of the 33 years labor of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and you will find that it has been concentrated on elevating morally and dignifying the so-called Negro masses and trying to effect a unity where the so-called Negro can do something for himself instead of lying at someone else's gate begging them. We have no record at any time where the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has called upon violence against the white race.
What is the ultimate solution?
The ultimate solution to this race issue, I presume, that you mean,
yes,
is as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad have said, it is separation or death. And so on the Negro's part, he's receiving much death now throughout the South. His churches are being bombed, his homes are bombed, his children murdered, his leaders sniped and shot in the back, and nobody has gone to justice for it, which testifies that Mr. Muhammad's solution is the right and proper one that would be best for everyone concerned.
And these reports that Malcolm X has been marked for death, you say are spread by Malcolm X himself?
That is his source of propaganda to stay in the press. He have no other means of reaching the press. He doesn't have a program. He's trying to reduplicate something that has been tried over the years by other so-called Negro leaders. And since it's not newsworthy, then the only thing that brings the press running is the fact that he is giving out this hearsay information that he's branded for death. I'm certain that if he was branded for death, why, he would have gotten death long ago instead of having time to run around and talk about it. But all of this is just hearsay. He knows that he is guilty of things that many men have been chastised for. So his fight against the messenger is in fact a fight against the God that sent the messenger. I believe our law is sufficient.
The messenger is Elijah Muhammad.
Yes, that's right.
Would you say that Elijah Muhammad, in preaching separation or death, is preaching a doctrine of love or a doctrine of hate?
I would say that his work is calculated to teaching self-knowledge to the so-called American Negro. Now, what the American Negro needs to be taught, no other people on earth is suffering in his condition. And therefore, his work is unique to the type of people that he's trying to teach. And he is doing a job that have previously been called impossible. But the near the Honorable Elijah Muhammad comes to success in uniting the so-called Negroes, cleaning them up, then many of the others are becoming insane with jealousy and envy for the power that he appears to have. And therefore, they are ready to use any means to blackguard the man that has benefited the so-called American Negro more than any man that have ever been among us.
You feel that Malcolm X is one of these people that's becoming insane with jealousy?
I feel he's the chief hypocrite that is spreading malice into the hearts of whosoever will spend a few minutes to listen to him. Malcolm X at the present time is living on Muslim property. We took care of him. We fed him. We supported his whole family. And then he rewards the messenger for all of this good by running all over the world, even overseas, trying to make things look bad for a man whose work speaks for itself. You can touch all the followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. They are gainful at work. They are at peace. They are taking care of their families. They are taking a bath. They are welcome in any society. That is, if they would like to go into any society, because they know themselves and they know other people. So they know how to not be lying around begging for that which they have not earned.
You think you describe your own feelings toward Malcolm X now as feelings of hatred or what?
My feelings towards Malcolm X is in tune with the teachings of the religion of Islam. I have known many men that were failed because of being morally weak, and on the other side of not being morally weak, who had a lust for power and fame that have defected out of the nation of Islam. But when they leave the nation of Islam, our communication with them is gone, and we are done with them. The only difference with Malcolm is that he has made it a point in trying to attack the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and to defame the man's work. But there are thousands of people that have been in and out of Islam, and they was happy over the benefit of knowledge and understanding that they received when they was there, and some of them have gone out to try to start businesses or work out some other gain for life. But Malcolm is so insane with envy and a lust for power, a lust for television and the press, until he will do anything to get himself out in the open. And therefore he thinks the best way to do that is attack Muhammad or pretend that the Muslims are attacking him. I don't think he's that significant.
The problem of the black people in America is inseparable from the problem of oppressed people all over the world. And until the leaders of black America realize that our problem is inseparable from the entire international problem, we will be considered a minority, will be considered an underdog, and will be begging for the things that we should have had when we were born. And we still won't have them.
What would these guerrillas do once they were in these states?
Well, one of the things that they could do, they could see that the federal government had to intervene. Since Jim Foreman and others there have not been able to get government intervention with peaceful methods, we feel that we can send in enough brothers into that area to carry on a campaign of terror against the Ku Klux Klan to the point where the government would have to intervene itself and occupy the state of Mississippi. How can you advocate violence in an area where 3 men have disappeared who were doing nothing but trying to show our people how to register to vote? This is the violence is already there. We are going there to put down the violence. Since the government isn't able to stop the violence that's being committed against Negroes, we feel that it is necessary to put a halt to this violence ourselves. And Lyndon B. Johnson just stated this week that this government would go to war to protect the peace that this government wants. And we feel that our people have reached the point wherein we can see that we're going to have to go to war against the racists in this country and make war against them ourselves in order to preserve our own peace and in order to preserve our own lives and our own property. And this is not advocating any kind of violence. This is being prepared to retaliate against those who are violent with us. And we think that this is the only language that the Ku Klux Klan and the White Citizens Council and the George Lincoln Rockwells and these other racists and extremists understand. It's not advocating violence. Our people there are already the victims of violence and have been the victims of brutal violence on the part of the Klan. We're advocating self-defense units and self-defense units alone.
Who would the victims of this guerrilla army be?
Only the racists, only the people who are inflicting criminal assault upon the lives and the property of our people in that area.
What do you think of the killing of Malcolm X?
Well, I think it was terrible. It was a tragedy.
How did it affect you?
Well, it didn't really affect me, not in the sense that I'm a follower, but it did affect me as a person, you know.
Do you think his death will hurt or hinder or help the Negro cause in general?
I think it will help eventually.
Why is that?
Well, I don't know. It's just something that will happen because they always say that it takes violence to get what you're trying to succeed in doing, and I think it will help in the long run.
Did you agree with Malcolm's philosophy?
Some things.
What in particular?
Well, just certain ideas he had, certain things he said that I went along with, and I think everyone at one time or another have gone along with some things he said or done.
What in particular?
Well, I don't know any particular things, but just what I've heard and read, certain things I've gone along with.
All right, thank you very much. What is your reaction to Malcolm's killing?
I felt he shouldn't have been killed.
Why is that?
Because he had his own philosophy and he was entitled to it.
Did you agree in any part with his philosophy?
Up to a certain point.
What point was that, sir?
Where every man, the colored man, should protect himself.
In what other ways?
That's about the only way that I liked him.
Did you ever think of joining his cause?
No.
Why not?
Still, I thought it was too far out.
Yet you do believe that the colored man should protect himself.
I do.
Do you think ultimately that the killing of Malcolm will help or hurt the Negro cause?
That's hard to say.
What's your opinion?
I think it might help. It might pull the groups together. Maybe one day, sooner or later.
That the groups might become...
That's right. They might become amalgamated, together.
Because of this.
That's right.
Thank you very much. Sir, what is your reaction to Malcolm's killing?
Very sorry to hear of his death. It's a tragedy, and as a result, it served no purpose whatsoever.
Do you believe that this will help ultimately or hinder the Negro cause?
Well, it has served a purpose. He has served a purpose.
What purpose is that?
Well, it created a feeling that, and it showed the world that the injustice that had been placed upon the Negroes.
You felt that Malcolm had done this?
Yeah, but I don't think he did anything to solve the problem.
Do you think he made the problem greater?
Possibly so.
Did you follow his philosophy?
No, I didn't.
Why was that?
What's that?
Why was that? Why didn't you follow his philosophy?
Well, I didn't believe in his philosophy. I believe in the method that Luther Martin King pursued.
So you feel overall that while it is a tragedy, it may in the end help the Negro to attain its goals?
No, I don't think it obtained. I think it stirred up a sentiment that had been thrust upon us. But I don't think he did anything to solve the problem.
Right. That's fine. Thanks very much. How do you feel about Malcolm's killing?
I feel that it will touch off a war here in New York City between the black Muslims and Elijah Muhammad.
Do you have any other feelings on it?
Well, I feel that it will hurt the Negro cause.
In what way?
With this bloodshed being spilled now, especially when the Negroes need more help, more understanding from the white people, and the war that may take place, I feel certain that it will hurt the Negro cause.
Well, what did you think of Malcolm's philosophy personally?
Well, I didn't agree with his philosophy, although I thought a lot of his character. I thought he was a very brilliant man. I happened to have the opportunity to listen to him one night on an all-night radio show, and what he said, I believe that he believed, you see. So he was fighting for his belief, which is what...
You respect that?
Yes, very much.
Thank you. How do you feel about the killing of Malcolm X?
I was deeply shocked. I didn't believe that things like that still went on in America. Another assassination like Kennedy's.
Do you consider it another assassination like Kennedy's to be equal?
Not exactly equal, but close to it.
You just didn't think things like this could happen in this country. What do you think this might possibly lead to?
Well, I believe there's a good chance of a future bloodletting like this one between the two factions of black Muslims, between Malcolm X's and the other ones.
What did you think of his philosophy?
I really don't know. I didn't understand that much of it.
Did you ever hear him speak?
No, I did not.
Yet it did shock you when you heard of his killing.
Just the fact that he was shot down in broad daylight in a theater like he was, just that, it was shocking.
Thank you very much. How do you feel about the killing of Malcolm X?
Well, I was quite shocked about it. I don't think it's quite the American way to go about things like this by killing people. I think it can be settled otherwise.
What do you think this might lead to among Negro factions?
Well, I think they're going to have some trouble up in Harlem and throughout the United States. I think there's going to be a lot of propaganda, both here in the United States and out in the other countries.
What did you think of his philosophy?
Well, I didn't agree with it, but that still, it's his way, it's the American way. He can say what he wants.
Thank you. What do you think of the killing of Malcolm X?
Killing of Malcolm X in this country, I think, was ridiculous. Because the program that he was carrying out, I think it was a wonderful program.
Did you agree with his philosophy?
Yes, I did. In many ways I did, in many ways I did not.
What were the ways you did and did not?
Well, I didn't agree, well, when he preached hatred, but when he said that all man must come in together and be one, and when he went into Africa and other countries, all he wanted them to know that the American Negroes was human just like anyone else.
What do you think this killing might lead to among Negro factions?
But I have no comment on that.
Do you think that it will cause some ultimate bloodletting?
No comment on it.
Do you think that other people now are going to be seeking Malcolm's power and that the struggle between the black nationalists and the black Muslims will continue?
Yes, I think so. I think the program still will be carried out because, I mean, not just in America, I think Africa and the other countries will most or less have something to say about this assassination of Malcolm X. Well, in the assassination of Malcolm X that taken place yesterday, Sunday afternoon, I think the Washington government, high officials had something to do with that.
Are you saying that politicians, government leaders in America, your opinion, had something to do with the killing of Malcolm X?
Yes, I think it was almost based on the same fact, the assassination of President Kennedy.
What fact do you think that was based on?
Well, it was a planned job and it was money behind it.
Why would they want to get Malcolm X out of the way?
Well, my opinion, because after he went into Africa and dealt with the Arab countries, well, then came back into this country, well, they didn't know what the power could have been with him. And so they feel like, well, they should get him out of the way, because I feel like when he went to France and he was turned down, couldn't ground in France, so I think the United States wired ahead in order to keep him from being grounded in France to express his opinion. But for his French de Gaulle, Charles de Gaulle, I don't think he had anything to do with it in France.
I heard shots, and I saw people crawling on the floor. And so I got down too. Then when I was looking out and I saw someone look in amazement to the front, I knew they had shot my husband. And my children were crying, you know, what's going on? What's going on? Are they going to shoot us?
This ghastly nightmare of violence and counter-violence is something that must be condemned by all people of goodwill in this nation. I don't think violence solves any social problem. It only creates new and more complicated problems. I think it is also necessary to say that the assassination of Malcolm X was an unfortunate tragedy, and it reveals that there are still numerous people in our nation who have degenerated to the point of expressing dissent through murder, and we haven't learned to disagree without being violently disagreeable.